Hi, everybody. We'll go ahead and get started. So this session is looking at the many different experiences in a family impacted by Huntington's disease or in relationships. Sometimes what can happen is that because there are similar connections to Huntington's disease within a family, you tend to think, not us as community members, but sometimes you think that everybody's experiences within that family relationship must be similar. This is really looking at how each individual in either a relationship or in a family views their experiences, what are some of the challenges, because it's really important to see both sides. So in this part, this half hour, we have this lovely group of panelists. And in the second half hour, we're going to have someone else in their relationships, and they'll kind of share a little bit more about that. But first of all, I am going to hand down the mic and have each individual lovely panelist share a little bit about themselves.
Hi, I'm Meg. I'm from the United States, Colorado. This is my first HDYO conference. Do you want to do like a fun fact or like HD related? Oh, okay. Well.
If you feel comfortable sharing how you're in.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. So I'm from the United States, Colorado. I am gene positive. I tested positive about 9 months ago. So it's still pretty fresh, but I've known about HD for over half my life that I was at risk. So, yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Claudia. I'm 26 from Italy, a small village in the north. And my mom has HD, and I'm currently at risk.
I'm Taylor. I'm from a small town in Ontario in Canada. I'm 29. I tested gene negative almost 10 years ago now. And my mom had it, and out of 5 siblings, one of my brothers is tested positive, and 2 negative, and 1 is still at risk.
I'm Holly. I'm from Northern California in the United States, and I have a daughter with juvenile Huntington's disease, and she obviously got it from her dad. I'm not at risk, and I raise her with my husband, my current husband.
So to give a little bit of insight about the relationships that we'll hear, so Meg is here with her partner, Claudia is here with her father, Taylor's here with her sibling, and then we have 2 partners as well impacted by juvenile HD. So the first question I want to talk about is, when did you first learn about Huntington's disease? And we'll continue to kind of pass the mic throughout if that works, just so we can kind of get that consistent storytelling. Meg, are you okay starting first?
So like I said, I've known about HD for over half my life. 3 of my uncles have already passed from HD. So I think I was like 12 or so when I found out that it was from a disease, and it ran in our family. So so it's been like over half my life. And for the first 10 years after I found out, I was never planning on getting tested. And so a big reason for my testing was actually because of my relationship with my husband and how supportive and encouraging it was, because before that I was, for me, HD was very isolating and lonely. So, yeah.
So my mom was diagnosed in 2008, but I haven't actually heard the word Huntington's disease until 2016. For all my life, I knew that she was sick. I just didn't know what the disease was. And then when I grew older during high school, this question was growing with me. And then during one substitute class, very boring class, I decided to look up her meds online on Google. And the thing I found that was Alzheimer's meds. So I just put the name on it, and that was it. And then in 2016, a psychologist that was, supporting my family decided to tell me about it and to explain to me what it was and how it's inherited. But yeah, I lived most of my life with HD, but without knowing it.
I've known about HD probably for as long as I can remember. My grandma was in long-term care, and we'd visit her when I was young. And my mom was symptomatic pretty early, so we kind of just grew up living this life.
I learned about HD in my mid-20s. It was my first husband's mom had it. They actually told me she had MS initially, and then they all knew what it was. And then when they told me what it was, we did a little bit of research, and I thought it was only adult, like it only hit like older people. And then I learned about juvenile HD when my daughter was about 9 years old. I was researching online, and I thought, okay, this is a whole different animal. So HD and JHD were two different phases of my understanding.
So how does HD and has HD impacted your day-to-day life?
So before I got tested, I felt like my, I don't know. I was asked last night if I regret getting tested, and my immediate answer has been no. I'm glad I got tested, and I'm glad that I have the knowledge now, and I know that nothing is different about me right now other than the knowledge that I have the gene. So I guess from a day-to-day life, physically being pre-symptomatic, no issues, other than, with just the emotional, psychological knowledge of knowing I have HD is difficult, but it's also given me a lot of power and kind of confidence in myself almost, which has been actually really cool.
So HD had a huge impact on my life even before I knew what it was. Because when I was a teenager, my mom always needed someone with her. She always tripped, she always fell. And that was so frustrating because I felt, the burden of doing, also the duty to do it, but also the burden because I didn't fully understand what it was. And luckily, during the years, we were able to afford caregivers to help us. But I can generally say that this was like an odyssey. We are talking about 15 caregivers in 12 months. That was really, really frustrating, but now we have a good caregiver, and we are starting to balancing our life, our priorities, but also caring for my mom.
My day-to-days changed a bit. We lost my mom about 4 years ago, so that sort of changed my impact with HD. I'm involved in Canada. I sit on the YPAD board. And also, I still support my brother. He's fully independent, pre-symptomatic, but I think it's just that watching and waiting in the day-to-day.
For me, it's been like a varied relationship. For a while, HD was kind of at arm's length. It was my in-laws, and then was my husband going to get it? And then we divorced, and then he got diagnosed, which made sense in hindsight. And then it was still like, well, that's their family, right? And then when my daughter got diagnosed, it was like being hit by a truck. And so now she's needing more and more care, and so it's getting actually, it's affecting me more and more and more and more every single day. So like a year ago, she could walk and talk and do all her own things, and now I'm showering her, and it's just, she's 18 now, and it's a day-to-day. I'm feeding her, I'm bathing her, I'm doing all those things, and it's just not what you think you're going to get out of an 18-year-old.
Thank you all so much for sharing. Another big part is how does Huntington's disease impact your relationships? And that can be any relationships. It could be romantic. It can be with your friends, connected network. How has it impacted?
So just because I'm here with my husband, I think I'm just going to focus on that relationship for now, if that's okay.
It's up to you.
Okay. So Drake and I have been together for 6 years, and I told him within like the first like 6 months of us dating that I was at risk. And at first I couldn't even tell him the name of HD because I didn't want him to Google the name and like search it and, know more about it. So, jumping from that to then now today, is just to see that progression is just like, it's amazing. And I'm incredibly grateful to have such a supportive person by my side through this process, because it hasn't been easy, and I know it's not going to be easy. And I think being vulnerable with him has been, yeah. And then I think one thing I want to touch on too, after I tested positive, having this feeling of guilt towards him. I know they talk a lot about like the survivor's guilt, but I think there's also probably a lot of guilt for people that have the HD, pre-symptomatic or symptomatic, for the person that's going to be taking care of them. So Drake and I have talked about that a lot too. But yeah, I could talk a lot more about that. But anyways, yeah.
So when I first learned about HD, the first person I decided to tell was my lifelong best friend. We've known each other for all of our lives, but the thing that shocked me the most about her response was that she knew. And then I started opening up to people more and more, and when I started to share this part of my life, a lot of people were like, yeah, I know, because they needed to be prepared in case that I found out on my own, but it really felt like a Truman Show. I really genuinely think that's the right expression, and that made me shut off completely. Like, I went out of my house, I moved out, I thought that, distancing myself from HD will make HD go away. Spoiler alert, it doesn't work like that. HD is going to be there. So then I completely changed my approach. I came back home, I started to be more proactive and, absurdly talking to everyone I know about HD. It's like I want to be in control of this information. I think Huntington disease was maybe the first thing that I told my partner about, and he's been super supportive. And I know that's not for everyone, to go straight into HD mode, but that was something that worked for me, and we've been growing together for 3 or 4 years now, so that's been good.
I've always been very open about talking with HD with my friends. I'm a yapper, so I can't help it. And I don't do well keeping things in. But even like I would take my best friend to come see my mom when she was in long-term care, just so that I had somebody on the outside that was there and understood, like not necessarily understood, but she works in healthcare and she kind of had her own idea about it. But she was just to have another person there that wasn't somebody in this community. I love this community, but I also just needed somebody on the outside too.
I guess, I don't even know where to start. I had my first husband, and HD is probably why I'm divorced. So that was a pretty big relationship impact. And then I have a current husband, and I don't think that we talked about it prior to getting married, because it seemed like it was not going to be impacting our lives that much, as it was my ex-husband's family. And so when my daughter got diagnosed, I said, you can leave. You don't have to do this with me. I know it's going to be ugly. I know it's going to be hard. You don't have to. Like, you're not tied to this the way I am. I did this. And he said, I'm going to do it with you. And so he has, and he's been a great stepdad to my daughter and a great support to me through the highs and lows of everything Huntington's can bring to your life.
So this is a lot. This is hard. And this is a very vulnerable conversation. So we're so appreciative, because this is the reality. How do you stay positive and have hope? And that's a loaded question. I know. It's complicated. It is complicated. Yeah. Yeah. And like, how do you cope? Not even positive, but two, how do you cope with everything?
I was just going to touch on what was your name? I'm sorry. Holly, what Holly said. Before I met Drake, I kind of had gotten to a point where I never thought I was going to get married because every relationship in my life with HD ended in divorce. And I was just like, that's the reality of HD. And so now Drake and I kind of, we like make jokes like, we're not going to say the D word, you know, and if we say it, then like divorce, like, you know. So I think him and I, we kind of have learned to like make jokes about HD. And then like a little bit earlier in the session, there was like, the HD gene was like, or like the normal gene was like a muffin, and then the HD gene was like a piece of bread. And I was like, Dirk and I were just laughing about, like, I'm banana bread. I'm not a little cute muffin, but yeah. So I think for us, just kind of like making light at times if we can, like of, you know, how shitty the situation is. Like, you know, we still have a beautiful life together, and yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
So coping is not easy because, let's face it, it's HD puts some weight on our shoulder, and this is difficult to remove. And at first I tried to bury myself into work, friends, just trying not to think about it. Spoiler alert, part 2, this doesn't work. You need to face it. So now I've been going to a psychologist for more than a year, twice a month, and she's actually helping me to cope with the feelings, cope with the stress, cope with everything that I feel about being at risk and my future. And a part of that, of course, I have my big HD family. I think this is the best support that I have because I know that I'm not alone, that these challenges are not just mine, but they are our challenges, and I know that even if they are on the other side of the world, they can support me and I can support them.
I don't always stay positive. HD is like this giant weight, and it's just easy to get like crushed under it constantly. For every like healthy coping strategy, I think there's just as equally an unhealthy one. I bought a dog because I was sad, and he, again, spoiler, didn't fix the problem. He created a lot more problems because I got a dog and went back to university, all because I was sad, and both of those did not fix anything at all. Just put me into student debt and got me this baby, so.
Are we talking about positivity or coping here? I think initially I didn't cope at all. Once my daughter was diagnosed, I actually was like, I don't even want to, it's going to sound bad, but I was like, I don't even really want to look at her. And so for a long time it was like, I wanted to research all the HD things, but then there were days where I would just scroll and be like, oh, I can't look at it today. And I did a lot of like burying my head in the sand. And then once I started to get involved in the community and I met some other moms, and I kind of got a group. I'm not like a joiner, but it has helped a lot, and I can talk and vent and know that I'm not going through this alone, for better or for worse. Like, I wish they weren't going through it either, but here we are. And I think other than that, I've just tried to never think about it, which didn't really work either. And so in general, like, just try to face it the best you can. And we say, like, if you don't laugh, you're going to cry.
Are you fine if I ask a question that wasn't on the prep sheet? Is that okay? So we talked a lot about community. Can you share a little bit in more detail about how you started to form that community who understands Huntington's disease? Some of you mentioned about how it's impacted you, but how did you even make that first step to try and seek that out?
So my family is very, very private about HD. That's kind of why I haven't been talking about them a lot. And I have always been like the black sheep of my family and like an open book and like want to talk about HD all the time. And so for most of my life, I kind of had to shut that away and be quiet. And like I said, it was very, very isolating. And so after I decided that I was going to get tested and I had just so many conversations with my husband. And then I, did get tested and I was positive. As soon as that happened, I was like, okay, it's time for me to jump all in, completely jump in. And I joined HDYO ambassador group like immediately after I tested positive, and it's just been a game changer since then. Like my life has completely changed since then. And having the HD community has been like the biggest blessing of my life. And yeah, I don't know. Did that answer your question? Okay.
Well, my first HD event was in Vatican City in 2017, I think that was. And that was actually the first time where I knew about HDYO. I didn't actually join for a little bit. Then we had the first virtual congress. And then we were in Bologna together. But I think that it really hit me in Glasgow during last congress, while we were out just enjoying our Saturday night with other teenagers and young people. And at some point, always responsibly, always. But I was just looking around and I was like, all these people are like me. Like I don't have to explain to them what I'm feeling, why I'm feeling it. I can just say, today I had to care for my mom. And they know that this means a whole lot, and I don't have to explain it. And that's something that's keeping me going. I don't know anyone from Italy who's impacted. I don't have anyone that I can talk to in person, but I know that I'm just one text message away from all of them, and they are with me. And that's been a blessing, really.
I didn't actually really know how to get involved. Our local social worker at the time, when I was probably 17, it was Corey. I think a lot of people know Corey. We love Corey. He invited me and my siblings to a YPAD day, and then from there it kind of just snowballed, and I'm the vice president of the YPAD right now, and then I ended up going to camp in the summer, and now I'm here, and I think kind of once you're involved, you're kind of just stuck.
Yeah. It's like a snowball.
Yeah, you're stuck, yeah.
I don't exactly remember how I started Googling, and I was like frantically trying to figure out and reach out and call I think I was calling like scientists, and they were calling me back like, we can't help you. I don't know what you're doing. Because I was like determined to like save my child. And I ended up being invited to an HSG event in Sacramento, California. And I met one person, and then I got on social media and I met another person, and then I went to my second HD event, and they were like, we're so glad you're here. And I was like, you don't even know me, like what's going on? And then I met some other moms of kids, and then they were like, you need to be part of our group. And it was just like all enveloping. And it's just, like I said, it's a snowball. It's just once you go, it's like gets bigger and bigger, and then you go to another event, you meet more people, and then you're like, I guess this is my team now, right? So.
It tends to happen organically, but you have to make that first step to kind of reach out. And that's really intimidating, right? To put yourself out there, even to send an email, that's a big step forward, because are you going to get a response back? Is there going to be nothing that they can do to support you? All of these different things can run through your mind, but making that first step is really important. And I'm not just saying this because I'm the executive director, but what we do is we are this umbrella organization that can help make connections globally. So are we the experts in every single country's infrastructure and healthcare systems and support with those really individual needs? We are not, but we know who could be. So what we do is we meet with individuals and we learn more about them and what their needs are. So then we can say, let's try this. Here's a resource. Here's a clinician. Here's a social worker. Here's someone in the community who maybe knows a little bit more about that and how you're feeling. Because the reality is that access to resources is not equal. Access to support is not equal. So we want to make sure that whatever that looks like, you have access to that through this huge network of the community that there is. And I think sometimes it feels so isolating to be in this community. But once you take that first step, then, as you all have said, the community attacks in the best possible way. It was really this huge collective embrace. I like to joke at a Congress in Glasgow. That was my first time to meet a lot of the community in person that I worked with every day. And, you all saw those stickers coming in with the green and the yellow and the red. I didn't care what your sticker color was. I was hugging and kissing on the cheek, and all of these different things. And because that's what that's like the personification of this community, no matter when you go into it or who you're talking with or what association, that is that embrace, that feeling that you have. Consequently, most people got COVID after that. I did not. So I said, am I patient zero? Did I? Just kidding, but not really. But anyway. But this community is just so powerful. So by you all being here, you are actually taking that step. By you following along on social media, you all are actually taking that first step. So continue to take those steps with whatever works best for you. Absolutely.
I think sometimes, especially when you're new, you don't even know what you're looking for. And you just want to reach out and know you're not alone. And you don't know if you need support. You don't know if you want to cry. You don't know what you need. And part of being part of the community is kind of learning what you need and learning about yourself and how to frame it for yourself and hearing other people's stories. And it fills those holes for yourself. Right.
Through whatever mechanism, social media or emails, and it's like, I have this one question about, can I get tested, right? That's a simple, seemingly simple answer, but there's so much before that. So when you have those conversations, it's just simply, tell me about you. Why are you asking? Because then you start to really unpeel all of those layers and you start to tell your story. So then we can look at what are those different needs. So just like Holly said, it's just, and that's such a release too, to be able to share your story. And then for people to say, yes, I understand that, or have you thought about this? So those steps are really important. So as we close up, any closing thoughts for this group for this first half of this session?
I just want to say, to everyone that I've met so far, it's been amazing. And thank you for, just thanks for inviting me into the community. And like we just said, just feel a forever hug. Also, if there's anyone out there that wants to talk to me or Drake or both of us, whatever, about relationships and specifically romantic relationships with HD, where him and I are both open books about it. We're also we just started our PGT IVF process. So that is a whole nother freaking thing. So yeah, we're really excited. Yeah, thank you. So yeah, if anyone has questions about that too, we know a little bit.
I just want to thank you all for being here, listening to our stories, thanking HDYO for creating this amazing community. Now I'm going to cry, but I want to thank my family because I know it was really hard for you to be here and to make that first step. And I'm really, really, really proud of you.
I'm just super grateful to be a part of this community, and I feel if there's any big takeaway, it's don't be afraid to get involved, even if it's as simple as just getting in a group chat and you don't have to say anything, but you're there and it's just, if you're a fly on the wall, you're still there and you're taking something in, and maybe a year and a half down the road you see, you just want to message somebody, there's always somebody that's going to answer you and there'll be zero judgment.
I don't know what I'm going to say. Thank you all for listening to us, obviously, but I think everyone in this room is already being loud and being an ambassador of their own. And I think coming from the family that I learned from HD from, they were also silent and you weren't allowed to talk about it. And I think we need to talk about it. So here we are. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your journeys and your advice and your thoughts and your experiences. We have a bit of a break. It's on purpose, so people can, this is a heavy session, so just 10 minutes. So if you need to go use the restroom, if you want to just stay here and talk with one another, let's take a little bit of a break, and then we'll have our next round of panelists up here. So in case you're new, just a recap. So what we're doing is we're having two sessions where we hear from one family perspective from one member and then another perspective from another family member. So here, I'll let them introduce ourselves, but we have the counterparts from the first panel. So we have Drake, and he'll introduce himself in more details, but as a spouse, we have Francesco, who's a father, and we have Sadie, sibling. So that kind of sounds like a last name. And then we have Wes, who's also a spouse. And so do you mind taking a few minutes and introducing yourselves?
Hi, everyone. Try not to talk too loud. I'm kind of loud. So I'm Drake. I'm from Colorado in the United States, and I'm lucky to be married to Meg. If you were here, you were able to see her. And yeah.
Hi. Before excuse me, because I must read. My name is Francesco. I'm Italian. I live in a small town in northern Italy. Since 1985, I've been married to Patrizia, who has huntington's disease, and the father of Chiara and Claudia, and the grandfather of Celeste.
Hi there, my name is Sadie. I'm originally from a small town outside of Toronto, Canada, but I now live in London, UK. I've been living there for a couple of years now, and I'm a teacher out there. I am gene negative, and I come from a really big family of 5 siblings with different gene statuses.
Wes Matthews. I am the husband to Holly, who was up here before me, and my daughter is juvenile Huntington's, and she's my stepdaughter, so I'm her caregiver and stepdad.
Thank you all so much for being here. Let's talk a little bit about your experiences when you first found out about Huntington's disease. What was that like?
So probably the first time I ever heard of Huntington's disease was when I first met Meg. I didn't know about it before, and probably within the first 6 months we started dating, she opened up and started talking to me about it. At first, she didn't tell me what the disease was, but that this disease ran in her family, and so I kind of got like little bits of crumbs and pieces, and over time we created a whole picture of it all, and I then started asking questions, and it just kind of kept rolling from there.
The first time I heard the name Huntington was in 2008. Soon after, our family life changes suddenly. It all started with a consultation with a psychiatrist. My wife and I went in Milan to see him, and after a few meetings, he sent us to San Gerardo Hospital in Monza for neurological tests. The first information I found about HD was in the worst way possible, with a simple Google search. After reading just a few lines, I felt like I was in front of a firing squad with a heavy weight on my shoulders. Today, I understand how important it is to have the right information and support. When someone suddenly falls into this deep hole, they need help to find a way out, like me.
The first time I found about Huntington's disease was maybe 10 years old. I always knew my mom was sick, and then as she progressed, they eventually told us like it was Huntington's disease. I did my own research as well, which takes you down in a spiral, which is not always good. But then I fully grasped what it was probably in my late teenage years.
So I first found out through my wife's ex-husband was diagnosed when we were first engaged, and I was already in Bella's life. And then 9 years later, found out about juvenile Huntington's as even a thing, and so then it's kind of a double punch, figuring it out. Yeah, that's about it.
How has and how does Huntington's disease impact your day-to-day lives?
I think it impacts it. It has, definitely since last year. Meg decided to go through testing. Kind of before that too. We've been married about a year and a half, almost 2 years now. So kind of like thinking of that and going into like family planning too, and kind of thinking of our future there. That's why, I think she decided one point of getting tested in that direction. So kind of starting there, we started talking about almost HD every day, what we're going to do, all of this. And even from when she got tested last July, then we just jumped right in. She became an ambassador here with HDYO. We joined a local group. We just started reaching out, and that's how. And we've made it a daily part of our lives, and tried to kind of conquer it more. I feel like rather than, because before she met me, she wanted to talk about it, and she wanted to kind of conquer it, and she has started. And I think I don't know if you can conquer it, but take her own emotion into her own hands. So.
I consider myself an optimistic person who always tries to see the glass half full, but when HD entered my family, it hit me like a tsunami. I already knew what the expect because I had seen my mother-in-law go through disease. She was first diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's by mistake. I knew that year after year I would lose my wife.
For myself, I always thought about HD every single day. When I went to university, I felt like I was too far away from Mom. She was in a in a home, and I was jealous of my siblings who saw her weekly, and I would only ever see her twice a month when I went home. It was always in the back of my mind of, how is this going to impact our family? And then when I got tested, it was a constant worry for those couple of weeks. I would lie awake at night, every tremble, every thought. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm going to have this disease that's going to impact my life and my family. I did get the news of being negative, but that does not mean I still don't think about it. I do have a brother who is G negative, and I still worry about him every single day. So it's constantly there. Doesn't matter if I'm halfway across the world, away from my family, but I'm still thinking about it every single day, and it does impact me on a daily.
So my impact is daily caretaking, and from morning to night to feeding to bathroom and everything with my daughter, but also being support to my wife, which is can be hard, and it affects every aspect of our life. And then doing events like this is almost a way to be involved, but also to kind of escape a little bit into a community of people that can understand what we're going through.
I think it's okay. I restart. I knew that year after year I will lose my wife, Patricia. Not only as my wife, but also as my life companion and best friend. I also knew that our plans and dreams for the future would have to change completely. At first, this thought made me feel lost. The first year was very difficult. Patricia didn't not accept the diagnosis. We keep going from one doctor to another, from one hospital to another. I felt useless and helpless, and I didn't know what to do or what to ask for help. Knowing that our daughters had a 50% risk of having the disease was terrifying. Even worse was I think that I read English. I don't understand English, but I think no all the emotions. Oh, even worse was thinking about how to tell them. When should we talk to them? How should we explain it? Luckily, we had the right support to help Claudia understand. We had to accept that our daily life would change in a big and small ways. Maybe we have not found the perfect balance yet, but I'm hopeful. I know the road ahead is still long and full of challenges.
I think let's all collectively take a deep breath. This is really hard. And that's okay that it's hard, but let's practice a little bit of those coping, okay? Let's all inhale deeply. Exhale hard. Get it out. Let's do it again. Inhale deeply. Out. Okay, it's a lot. I know it's a lot. I'm not going to go to the positive thing right now, so don't worry. How has HD also impacted your relationships? And that can be any relationships that you choose to talk about.
Well, first off, it would be definitely my relationship with Meg as my wife. I think it was something that like pulled us closer. I just, once when I found out, and then we started learning more and more. I'm kind of definitely an all in or not kind of person. So like, I think that helped with that, because once when I was like, yeah, we're doing this, like, I'm like, we're going, and we're just going forward no matter what. We'll take it day by day and we'll figure it out. But it's also, I was just talking to Meg like right before this after she talked. It has given me, as a person who, doesn't have Huntington's, gene positive, to look on myself with my relationships with her and with my friends and my family, and making sure that I try to be more present and more attentive with those emotions, telling them I love them more, and because sometimes we don't say I love you to the people we really love as much as we do. So.
At the beginning, I made some mistakes. The biggest mistake was thinking I could protect my family by keeping them inside a glass bubble, but I was wrong. I also could not talk to anyone about how I felt. I cried in secret, not now. And that seemed like my only way to cope. In 2011, I had my first contact with an association, HDYO Milano. Thanks to them, I started to understand more about the disease that had turned my family upside down. Over the years, I made new friends And little by little, I started to open up, but I still found it difficult to talk about HD freely. I needed bigger pushes to change, and those come years later. The first big change was in 2017 when my family and I attended to Eat No More event at the Vatican. For the first time, we met people from all over the world who were going through the same situation. And in the following year, I started working more closely with the Huntington-disease Association in Milan. The second big change was in December 2018 when my granddaughter Celeste was born. She brought a smile back to Patricia's face and happiness to our family. She also made me very happy and a little silly grandfather. Other big moments come later. My daughter Claudia shared her experience in HDN meeting in Bologna and the HDYO Congress in Glasgow. And then we attended together to EHA Congress in Blankenberg and the HDN Congress in Strasbourg. Prague will also be another important step for us, I think.
I'll take a little step looking at friendships. I often share my story with my friends, and I will be very clear with them what is happening in my family. But I would never let them come over and see Mom. That was our special time, and I didn't want to share it with anyone else, besides my family, obviously. But looking at like romantic relationships, I would often put it on the plate pretty early on and tell them, this is what I have in my family. I just want you to be clear. This is what you might see down the line in my brothers who are gene positive.
I'd like to start with my relationships that I've gained from coming to these events and people I've met that are lifelong friends. And my relationship with my wife has gotten stronger, but also we have very difficult moments and we have a lot that we have to deal with. My relationship with my daughter is more of just making sure she's okay and we get through the day. And the relationship I want to talk about is my son, who is not he's a born caregiver. He's not in danger of the disease, but he's grown up as a caregiver for his sister, and he's very helpful. He's 11 now, and we've known she's diagnosed as long as he's been alive, so he's grown up with it. He's come to a couple of these events, and he's involved as he can be, but it's hard as a parent having to put him through that as well, because it's just another avenue into how this disease is bad from all angles.
Thank you all so much for sharing. This is a lot, right? So how do you handle this? How do you cope? How do you do that?
Probably like Meg said, we laugh a lot. I'm a pretty positive person, or I try to be. Probably to some people overly positive, but we have fun with it, and I'm very energetic, and we have a lot of fun. So we joke about it. I think that's made it better there. I think talking about it really has helped. I know it has helped her a lot. It helps me with that, and we just sharing it, coming to groups like this, meeting other people in similar situations. Like, we're kind of in the middle of it because she got tested this last year, so we haven't even hit a year, and we're just like in the fire, trying to solve it and create kind of those positive views or those coping to hopefully be pushing us. So I don't know if that gave you a lot, but hopefully that's kind of like how I view it.
Sometimes ago, I read this on the social. When you live with a rare disease, you face two battles. One is the disease itself, and the other is living in a world where few people understand what you are going through. Unfortunately, it's true. HD changed everything. Our priorities changed, and we started focusing only on what was truly important. There are no rules or perfect advice how to deal with HD. We try to face the disease not as a problem, but as a new way of life. I could say that what helped me the most, is the love between Patricia and me. But after almost 50 years together, that would be too easy. There is something more. There's something we build over time. I don't know the exact word for it, but it helps us keep going. We just try to do everything we can to give Patricia the best quality of life possible. I'm sure she would do the same for us, and she would do it even better. One of the hardest things is also taking care of myself. I'm still working on it. And if I don't take care of my own physical and mental health, I cannot support my family in the best way. One time, because of my playful way of speaking, someone told me that I don't have a clear picture of what's happening in my family. Smiling and joking help me live this situation better, so then that's fine. At the end of the day, I am always a loving husband, father, grandfather, protective, a little grumpy, but always full of love for my family and for life.
There's a couple of ways that I cope. I do a lot of baking in my spare time in memory of Mom. I also make sure I'm taking care of myself by doing a lot of exercise. Another way, I don't want to admit to it, but I did leave after Mom died, and I went to London just to kind of get away from everything that was going on back home. I don't know if I'm going to go back home anytime soon, but also attending events like this and just coming together with people who actually understand what we're all going through and people who get it.
Yeah, the positive side's difficult, but coping with that and is trying to take these advantages that we're having to come to these events. And me and my wife like to take a couple days afterwards and go vacation and enjoy it normally with our kids. So we get experiences that we need to get to keep. And then I'm a chef, so the other way I cope is I dig my way into a menu, and which is what I'll be doing after this, and I'm going to be focused on that, and my wife won't see me for 2 weeks.
Any last piece of advice or anything that you want to share with the group?
Honestly, I had something, but now I forgot it. No, I'm just so grateful to be a part of this community. I appreciate everybody we meet, and I'm just so happy. She found out last year, but I'm trying my best to make sure that then we're just going to live life, and we're going to live it hard and fast and do what we want and everything. We're just going to step on the gas and just go, and not try our best not to let things, get in our way. And if they are, we're just going to blow them over. So yeah, that's how I kind of live my life. So we're just going to do that. And yeah, that's hopefully you guys do the same, because we're alive and we're well and we're breathing and we can talk and communicate, and even if we're here, and so yeah.
No, it's okay. The same word he says is for me. Thank you all. I'm proud to be here, and the first time in HDYO Congress, and I find a new family. I like this. Thank you. Thank you.
Two quick things. Hold on to the people that you meet here and just really, really cherish them. And then don't forget to hug your loved ones, because you just never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, this community has become a huge part of my life. And as I said before, these are some people in this group that have become lifelong friends, and we're planning trips together outside of these events. And yeah, keep all these people that you meet here that, I mean, even if it's been said a few times throughout this, even if you don't hear from them for weeks, months, or years, they'll still always be your family, and there's always a coming back and re-meeting and getting to know more people, and that's, I think, super positive and helpful.
Thank you for the opportunity.
I also want to acknowledge the fact that these are individuals who have relationships within their family and their structure, right? And sometimes that doesn't get a chance to happen with the whole community, whether that's because of stigma or fear or one's family not being open about talking about it. That again is why you're here today. So you're building that community. So sometimes when we were talking with about grief and loss, it's kind of grieving the community that you don't have. But let's celebrate the community too that you're building here today. So you are not alone at all in this journey. And I also want to highlight navigating relationships later on today. That's going to be another hour-long session. So especially if you are struggling or want advice on how to continue to build that community around you that maybe isn't happening naturally in your own family, that's a really good session to go to. So I just wanted to highlight that, because sometimes this is really hard for those who maybe don't have those kinds of relationships right now, but you're building that. So thank you so much for all of our panelists. Thank you all for being a part of this conversation.